What's going on, YouTube? Got another video for you today, and this week we're going to be covering Alien versus Captain America. But before I get into the video, I gotta go over this cover artwork because it is beautiful. Here we got the Dan Panosian variant cover. It is a foil variant, and it is just covered in detail. I mean, you got the alien up here just chilling, face huggers covered in Captain America's shield. Beautiful, especially with the foil. I also got this other variant. This is the In-hyuk Lee variant. This one's just so badass. You got the alien queen just trying to devour Captain America. He's doing his best, but I don't know if he's going to make it through the story. Beautiful variants. But anyways, let's get into the video. So we open up with this little intro text that says, "In the blood-soaked shadows of World War II, Captain America hunts Hydra's venomous agents through Europe's ruins. There are whispers in the cold winds that Baron von Strucker is in search of something that could help the Red Skull tip the scales of history. But no one could imagine the horrors that Hydra is willing to unleash on an already broken world." So Red Skull is essentially just trying to slam dunk his victory for World War II by unleashing the alien on Earth. What could possibly go wrong? We then cut over to Captain America, and he's just pummeling some of Red Skull's guys, asking, where is he? We then see Bucky and Captain America at Castle Strucker, interrogating the last dude of the group of the people they just beat the shit out of. Cap then says, "Give it up, soldier. We have intel Strucker is on a covert mission for the Red Skull." And Bucky chimes in and says, "And we know he didn't send him out for groceries." But this guy just says, "My apologies, American fools, but I really only have one thing to say. Cut off one head, and another will grow." And he just crushes a cyanide capsule, which Captain America calls red dust, and he dies before they can get any real intel out of him. We then see Bucky say, "I hate when they do that," and Captain America responds, "Not exactly fond of it myself. It does tell us one thing though, Bucky. Whatever Strucker's up to, and wherever he is, it can't be good for our side." So all we really know right now is that the Red Skull is scheming something. No one really knows what his info is. He's just scheming. But one thing I really do like that they did with this story is that this is pre-frozen Captain America. So this is World War II, Bucky and Captain America just out kicking ass. And there is no Avengers, there is no other heroes present to help Captain America in this story. So this is straight up Captain America versus Alien, which is going to be badass. We then cut over to Strucker and his gang at a bar in the Himalayas. So yeah, they just barge in and he says, "Hello, I'm looking for a guide, and I'm told this is the place to find one. Specifically, we are looking for a guide who can help us find the fabled city of Attilan." But they all kind of just ignore him and go about their business, and that's a very big no-no to the Hydra organization. And he says, "Perhaps, maybe if I introduce myself, my position will be clearer. I am Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, High Commander of Hydra, and this is not a request." And this guy just stands up and he says, "You gotta go. We don't want any trouble." And before he can even finish his sentence, Strucker just grabs him by the face. And Strucker says, "Trouble has already arrived," and just crushes the man's whole head in his robot hand. What a crazy scene. And he just says, "Alright, I'm going to ask one more time. A guide to the city, and if I gotta repeat myself, this lady's about to get fried." And this random citizen just says, "Please, no more. I will take you." They then travel to this cave formation where the man says, "The people here, they consider those who reside in the city to be gods, and as such are fearful to disturb them. Hence why they were reluctant to take you, but I will lead you there and be rewarded." But they're just looking at these markings on the wall, and he says, "They represent the lost royal family of the Inhumans. They exist only in legend. Legend that tells us that they were one of the most powerful, revered Inhuman clans in history. But they just disappeared. No one knows what happened to them." And Strucker goes like, "Come on, we need to get this door open. We don't got time." But Han says, like, "This door is going to take some time to open." And Strucker replies, "Time we do not have. Hans, need I remind you, the Red Skull sent us on this expedition to find the home of the Inhumans in the hopes of uncovering a weapon to win the war. And as the war continues to go the Allies' way, the Skull has been disappointed in our progress, shall we say. And this Red Skull is not a man to disappoint, I can assure you that." Strucker then just turns to the guide and pops one right in his chest and says, "My regrets, my friend. You turned out to be quite the guide." But the guide, he's actually laughing and he says, "Good luck, you fools. You wanted to see gods?" but I took you to meet demons instead. So this guy, he knows what's already inside, and he basically set them up for death. Hans then starts talking about the markings that he's looking at on the wall, and he says that it's from the Inhumans, and they talk about the lost royal family, how they ruled in peace for centuries, but then they were killed by a plague of creatures from outer space. And Strucker's like, but where's their weaponry? Where's their riches? We need to get more. So they start pressing on further into the tomb. As they're pushing on, they find 2 coffins, and they actually hold the bodies of the king and queen of the Inhumans. And what they find is that their chest cavity has been bursted open. So them finding the aliens was actually the downfall of their society. Strucker then tells Hans to tell him more about the plague, and Hans says the carving spoke of an inhuman tradition. A tradition to bury the dead with what killed them. In their case, this was it. And we find a whole hallway filled with alien eggs. So pretty much they entombed the alien with the dead king and queen because that is what killed them. So they've been trapped here until today. Hans begins to investigate the eggs, and he says they're unlike any egg I've ever seen before. Actually, they're unlike anything I've ever seen in my life, period. And it opens up, and he sticks his head right over the top, and I'm sure you can guess what happens next. Hans just gets molested by a facehugger, and then every single other egg sac in the room opens up, and it just fills the room with facehuggers. And they open fire, but they just start getting torn apart by these facehuggers, and Strucker says, what in the name of hell are these things? Strucker then instructs all the men to retreat, but he gets ambushed by a facehugger, but before it can actually get him, he shocks it and knocks it unconscious. So very few of them actually survive, and they escape and then shut off the tomb, and they're like, well, we're actually just going to die when we get back home because Red Skull's going to be pissed. And Strucker just pops up and he says, on the contrary, gentlemen, the skull will indeed have his weapon. And he just pulls out the facehugger that he just knocked unconscious. So, yeah. Red Skull's about to craft the craziest army anyone's ever seen. We then fast forward a few weeks later in France, and they're at a Hydra base, and we see a couple prisoners of war on the American side. And one of the prisoners goes, maybe the war ain't going so well for the Skull if he can't afford lights. I mean, can it be darker in here? And one of the soldiers goes, they don't like the lights. And the prisoner's confused. He's like, hey, what do you mean? And he tells all his boys, like, looks like something's in here with us. And then they're face to face with a ton of alien eggs, and he says, what the hell is this? The Skull's idea of Easter? And then one of the eggs opens up, and he says, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to see what the Skull's Easter Bunny looks like. And before he can even react, he just gets sliced right in half. And we get to see this badass shot of the alien queen. So in just a span of a few weeks, they already have a fully grown alien queen and plenty of eggs to go around. Red Skull is stacking up his army right now. We then finally get to see Red Skull, and he's talking to the scientist. And the scientist says, we'll have to rein her in if she doesn't behave herself. And Red Skull replies, as long as she continues to produce eggs, Zola, and we continue to produce specimens for those eggs, then I can release my new alien army upon the world and truly lay claim to this war in a way even the Führer cannot. So Red Skull's going all in for this alien army, but it's kind of crazy because this could actually mean extinction for the entire planet. And it's just so crazy. Like, yes, you're gonna win, but at what cost? We then pick up a few days later with this group of American soldiers, and they're looking for one of their comrades that actually got captured. And they stumble across this village, and it is just covered with corpses. Every single one of them has their chest cavity open, so Red Skull has officially unleashed his army on the world, and it's already doing massive damage. The sergeant just goes, the whole freaking village brutally wiped out. One guy goes, guys, you're gonna have to excuse me. I'm about to be sick. And he just starts throwing up. And then another man chimes in and says, Sarge, over here. I have found someone. And she's alive. So the sergeant starts to ask her what happened. And she says, a monster sent by Hydra. We were used as test subjects to breed whatever those things are. And one of the soldiers asks, what kind of things? And she says, they're like big black bug things. Never seen anything like them before. And in the middle, she starts convulsing, and everyone's like, what the hell's going on? Out pops an alien straight from her chest, and everyone's just freaking out. I mean, this is just a horrifying sight. So the sergeant starts to draw his gun, but before he can even do anything, Captain America comes to save the day, slices it right in half, and then stomps him out. And the soldier says, I didn't need your help with that. And we don't need stinking Captain America's help with this mission either. And Captain America replies, well, to answer the first part, your fiddling with that gun says otherwise, so you're welcome. And as far as the second part, considering we may have a genuine war of worlds on our hand, Uncle Sam says otherwise. And that brings us to the end of Alien vs. Captain America. This was a great start to the series. There wasn't a lot of action that happened, but it opened up a lot for issue number 2. These are my favorite kind of stories to read because I just love crazy crossovers. I'm glad to see that they're getting a little bit more creative with it. My video a few weeks ago went over Deadpool versus Batman. That was also another great read and another very creative crossover. It's nice to see that they're branching out. And the plot of Red Skull using the aliens as a weapon for the war just fits the theme of, like, Captain America and World War II so well. Like, I love it. Anyways, let me know what you thought of the story in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.